We're examining economist Richard Wolff's perspective on the changing global landscape and what it all means for you.
The world is in constant flux, a reality often overlooked. What were once considered immutable truths about global power structures are now being challenged.
So let's consider the attempts to weaken Russia, particularly through sanctions, in response to the conflict in Ukraine.
The sanctions were intended to curtail Europe's reliance on Russian energy, oil, and gas. This reliance was deeply entrenched. Russia provided Europe with the most affordable energy, a factor that contributed significantly to Europe's economic prosperity, competitiveness.
Disrupting this flow has had adverse effects on European economies.
Indeed.
Instead of isolating and weakening Russia, these actions seem to have pushed it towards stronger alliances.
Russia pivoted towards its BRICS partners.
BRICS.
Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These nations, with whom Russia had been fostering relationships for years, became alternative markets for Russian energy.
So this raises the question of whether attempts to isolate a nation invariably achieve their intended outcome, or whether they can inadvertently create a more formidable opposition.
This question is paramount in international relations. It underscores the importance of considering the potential second and third order effects of any action on the global stage.
Now, we must examine the implications of this development for the BRICS nations as a collective entity. BRICS is often presented as a potential counterweight to the traditional Western-dominated world order.
We can glean insights from examining economic growth rates. Projections for 2024 indicate that the U.S. economy will grow at 2.8%.
Okay.
In contrast, Russia's growth rate is predicted at 3.9%, China's at 4.8%, nearly double the U.S. rate, and India's at a remarkable 7%, almost triple the U.S. rate.
These figures certainly highlight the dynamism of these economies. How does this growth trajectory translate into a shift in the global balance of power?
These trends have persisted for decades, indicating a fundamental shift in economic power. China's GDP is rapidly converging with that of the United States. The BRICS nations collectively represent a burgeoning economic powerhouse, the dynamic core of the global economy, while the West grapples to maintain its pace.
Such a shift from the West to a bloc representing a substantial portion of the global population undeniably carries profound implications.
It necessitates a reassessment of global power structures and a recognition that the world is transitioning towards a multipolar configuration where power is more diffused. This understanding is crucial for navigating the evolving geopolitical landscape effectively.
Wolff contends that the U.S. is clinging to outdated Cold War thinking, failing to acknowledge the realities of this multipolar world. He cites the unwavering U.S. support for Israel despite shifting global opinions and the potential decline of the U.S. dollar as prime examples of this disconnect.
The U.S.'s steadfast support for Israel, even when it diverges from the stance of many other nations, can have cascading effects on global trade. Tensions in the region can disrupt vital trade routes, like the Suez Canal, impacting global commerce. Moreover, the U.S. dollar's preeminence as the global reserve currency is showing signs of waning.
What evidence supports this assertion of the dollar's decline?
Central banks globally are reducing their dollar reserve holdings, opting instead for diversification and alternative currencies. This trend signifies a growing lack of confidence in the long-term stability of the U.S. dollar and a recognition of the shifting economic landscape.
The potential ramifications of this shift are substantial. Are there specific consequences for the average person?
As the dollar's dominance diminishes, the U.S. is likely to face higher import costs. These costs could translate into increased prices for consumers, impacting their purchasing power and overall economic well-being.
These seemingly isolated policy decisions can indeed have far-reaching consequences, highlighting the interconnected nature of the global system. The U.S. might need to adapt its strategies to align with the evolving global landscape.
Adaptation is not merely an option, but a necessity. The world is no longer beholden to the U.S. in the way it once was. A more nuanced and adaptable foreign policy approach is crucial for the U.S. to navigate this new reality effectively. Now let us examine a domestic issue that directly affects you: inflation.
Inflation has become a pressing concern for many. What insights does Wolff offer into this complex issue?
Wolff posits that inflation is not an abstract economic force, but rather a consequence of deliberate decisions made by those who wield power within our economic systems. He argues that inflation is primarily driven by employers raising prices to maximize profits.
This perspective challenges conventional understandings of inflation.
This system, where a small percentage of individuals hold the power to dictate prices that everyone pays, effectively concentrates economic control in the hands of a select few. issue. This arrangement stands in stark contrast to the principles of democracy, where power is meant to be distributed more equitably.
The Federal Reserve typically responds to inflation by raising interest rates. However, this measure often has unintended consequences, making borrowing more expensive and potentially exacerbating the problem for many.
This is a valid concern. While the Federal Reserve strives for price stability, the tools at its disposal can have unintended repercussions. There is a need to explore alternative approaches that address the root causes of inflation, rather than simply reacting to its symptoms.
Are there historical examples that offer potential alternative solutions?
In 1971, President Richard Nixon, grappling with escalating inflation, implemented a wage and price freeze. This policy, though not without its flaws, directly tackled the issue of rising prices. It serves as a historical precedent for considering interventions that directly address pricing mechanisms rather than relying solely on monetary policy tools.
Examining historical precedents like Nixon's wage and price freeze could provide valuable insights into potential alternative solutions to inflation.
Exploring historical precedents is crucial for informing contemporary policy debates. The wage and price freeze, despite its imperfections, demonstrates that direct intervention in pricing mechanisms is a possibility. Such interventions, however, must be carefully calibrated to avoid unintended distortions in the market. Let us now examine another example of how seemingly localized economic decisions can have global repercussions: the U.S. tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles.
This case study provides a compelling illustration of the interconnectedness of the global economy. The tariffs were ostensibly implemented to protect American companies, but what are the potential long-term consequences?
Chinese companies, particularly BYD, have emerged as leaders in electric vehicle technology and production. They frequently offer high-quality vehicles at lower prices, posing a competitive challenge to American manufacturers.
The tariffs, while aimed at safeguarding American companies, might inadvertently hinder their progress.
The tariffs render it more expensive for American companies to acquire the most advanced electric vehicles from China, potentially impacting their competitiveness and innovation capabilities.
This could, in turn, lead to higher prices for goods and services for American consumers, and potentially negatively affect American jobs.
Precisely.
This raises the question of whether protectionist measures, while seemingly beneficial in the short term, can stifle innovation and ultimately harm the economy they are intended to protect.
It is a complex issue with no easy answers. Protectionism can sometimes be necessary to safeguard strategic industries or address unfair trade practices. However, it is crucial to weigh the potential costs and benefits carefully and to ensure that such measures do not inadvertently hinder innovation and competition. Wolff's analysis delves deeper into the underlying causes of these economic challenges, arguing that a more equitable distribution of power is essential for addressing them effectively. He proposes a more democratic economic system, one in which workers have a greater say in decision-making processes.
This proposition challenges the traditional hierarchical structures of corporations.
Indeed.
How would such a system function in practice?
Wolff envisions a system where workers have a more direct stake in the success of their companies. This could involve profit-sharing arrangements, worker representation on corporate boards, or even worker-owned cooperatives. The fundamental principle is to empower workers and give them a voice in decisions that directly affect their livelihoods.
Such a system could potentially lead to a fairer distribution of profits and a more equitable society overall.
It aligns with the principles of democratic governance, extending them into the economic sphere. It is not simply about redistributing wealth, but about redistributing power.
This shift in power dynamics could create a more engaged and empowered workforce, leading to greater productivity, innovation, and overall economic well-being. Let us now explore Wolff's critique of the United States' role in the evolving global order.
Certainly.
He argues that the U.S. is losing its grip on global dominance, in part due to its inability to adapt to the changing realities of a multipolar world.
A crucial observation.
What factors contribute to this perceived decline in U.S. influence?
Wolff points to several factors, including the rise of BRICS, the economic challenges within the U.S. itself, such as growing inequality and a declining middle class, and the potential decline of the U.S. dollar as the global reserve currency. These factors, he argues, are indicative of a broader shift in the global balance of power, a shift that the U.S. has been slow to acknowledge and adapt to.
The rise of BRICS has already been discussed, but what about the potential decline of the U.S. dollar? How significant is this threat to U.S. hegemony?
The U.S. dollar's status as the global reserve currency has conferred significant advantages to the U.S. It has allowed the U.S. to finance its large current account deficits and to exert considerable influence over the global financial system. However, this dominance is not guaranteed. As other economies grow and become more influential, the demand for alternative reserve currencies is likely to increase. This could lead to a gradual erosion of the dollar's preeminence, with potentially significant implications for the U.S. economy and its global standing.
This potential shift in global currency dynamics underscores the need for the U.S. to adapt its economic and foreign policies to the evolving global landscape. Clinging to outdated paradigms could further erode U.S. influence and exacerbate the challenges it already faces. What specific steps could the U.S. take to adapt to this multipolar world?
Adaptation requires a multifaceted approach. On the economic front, the U.S. needs to address its structural weaknesses, such as its growing national debt, its dependence on foreign capital, and its declining manufacturing base. It needs to invest in education, infrastructure, and innovation to enhance its competitiveness in the global economy. On the foreign policy front, the U.S. needs to adopt a less unilateral and more collaborative approach, working with other nations to address shared challenges such as climate change, pandemics, and terrorism. It needs to build stronger alliances and partnerships based on mutual respect and shared interests.
Such a shift in perspective would require a significant departure from the U.S.'s traditional foreign policy approach, which has often been characterized by unilateralism and interventionism.
It is essential for the U.S. to recognize that in a multipolar world, no single nation can dictate the terms of global engagement. Cooperation and collaboration are essential for navigating the complexities of the 21st century.
This recognition requires humility and a willingness to engage with other nations on an equal footing, recognizing their perspectives and interests.
It necessitates moving beyond zero-sum calculations and embracing a more nuanced understanding of global interdependence. The U.S. can still play a leading role in shaping the global order, but it must do so in a way that recognizes the changing realities of the world and the aspirations of other nations. Let us delve deeper into this concept of a multipolar world. What are the potential implications of this shift for global stability and peace?
A multipolar world, by its very nature, is characterized by a diffusion of power. Indeed, this diffusion of power can be both a stabilizing and a destabilizing force. On the one hand, it can lead to a more balanced distribution of power, reducing the likelihood of any single nation dominating the global system. This can create a more stable and predictable international environment, reducing the risk of major power conflict.
On the other hand, a multipolar world can also lead to greater complexity and uncertainty as multiple power centers compete for influence and resources. This competition can increase the potential for regional conflicts and proxy wars as major powers seek to advance their interests through indirect means. The challenge is to manage this complexity effectively, fostering cooperation and dialogue among major powers to prevent competition from escalating into conflict.
This challenge underscores the importance of diplomacy, multilateral institutions, and international law in mitigating the potential risks of a multipolar world. These mechanisms can provide a framework for resolving disputes peacefully, fostering cooperation, and building a more stable and just international order.
They provide a platform for dialogue, negotiation, and compromise, enabling nations to address shared challenges and build relationships based on mutual understanding and respect. They are essential tools for navigating the complexities of a multipolar world and for ensuring that competition remains peaceful and productive.
Wolff's analysis emphasizes the interconnectedness of global systems, highlighting how seemingly isolated decisions can have far-reaching consequences. This interconnectedness extends beyond economic and political realms into the social and cultural spheres. The rise of social media and the internet has created a globalized information space where ideas and cultures transcend national boundaries.
This globalization of information has both positive and negative aspects. On the one hand, it can promote understanding and tolerance, fostering cross-cultural exchange and dialogue. On the other hand, it can also exacerbate social divisions as misinformation, propaganda, and hate speech spread rapidly across borders.
The challenge is to harness the power of technology for good, promoting constructive dialogue, combating misinformation, and fostering a more inclusive and tolerant global community.
This requires collaboration among governments, technology companies, civil society organizations, and individuals. It requires a commitment to promoting media literacy, critical thinking, and responsible online behavior.
This globalized information space also presents new opportunities for individuals to engage in global affairs and to hold power structures accountable. Social movements and citizen activism can now transcend national boundaries, mobilizing support for a wide range of causes and putting pressure on governments and corporations to act responsibly.
This rise of citizen activism is a testament to the democratizing potential of technology. It empowers individuals and communities to have a voice in shaping the world around them, regardless of their geographic location or political affiliation.
It is a potent force for social and political change, driving progress on issues ranging from climate change to human rights to economic justice. Wolff's analysis encourages us to embrace this interconnectedness, to recognize our shared shared humanity and to work together to build a more just and sustainable world for all.
It is a call to action, urging us to move beyond narrow self-interest and to embrace a broader vision of global solidarity. This vision recognizes that our fates are intertwined and that we have a collective responsibility to address the challenges facing humanity.
It is a vision that transcends national boundaries, ideological divides, and cultural differences, uniting us in a shared commitment to building a better future for all. This commitment requires us to engage in critical reflection, to challenge assumptions, and to be open to new ideas and perspectives.
It requires us to listen to each other, to learn from each other, and to work together to find solutions that benefit everyone. It is a daunting task, but it is also an inspiring one. It is a task worthy of our best efforts, for it holds the promise of a brighter future for all of humanity. Now let us examine the impact of these global shifts on the individual level. How can individuals navigate these complex and often overwhelming changes effectively?
The sheer scale and complexity of global issues can often leave individuals feeling powerless and overwhelmed. This sense of powerlessness can lead to apathy, disengagement, and a sense of resignation. However, it is crucial to remember that even amidst these vast systemic forces, individuals still possess agency and can make a difference.
Action begins with awareness. Informing oneself about global issues, understanding the interconnectedness of systems, and recognizing the impact of individual choices are essential first steps. Knowledge is power, and it equips individuals to make informed decisions and to engage in meaningful action.
This engagement can take many forms. It can involve making conscious consumer choices, supporting businesses and organizations that align with one's values, engaging in political activism, or simply having conversations with friends and family about these issues.
Every action, no matter how small, contributes to a collective movement for change. The cumulative effect of millions of individuals making conscious choices can be profound.
This sense of collective action is crucial for combating feelings of powerlessness. Recognizing that one is not alone in this endeavor, that there are countless others working towards similar goals, can be incredibly empowering. It creates a sense of community, solidarity, and shared purpose.
It reminds us that we are part of something larger than ourselves, that our actions, however small, can contribute to a collective effort to build a better world. This sense of collective purpose is essential for sustaining engagement and for overcoming the inevitable setbacks and challenges that arise along the way.
It is this spirit of collective action, fueled by knowledge, compassion, and a commitment to justice, that will ultimately drive the positive change we seek in the world.
Wolff's analysis has provided us with a framework for understanding the complexities of the global landscape and for recognizing our agency within it. It has challenged us to think critically, to question assumptions, and to envision a more just and equitable world.
It has inspired us to embrace our interconnectedness, to act with compassion and courage, and to work together to build a better future for all. This journey of understanding and action is an ongoing one. It is a journey we must all embark on together for the sake of our planet and future generations.
It is a journey that demands courage, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to justice and equality.
Navigating this path necessitates a willingness to challenge conventional wisdom, to confront uncomfortable truths, and to embrace new ways of thinking and being.
It requires us to move beyond simplistic binaries and to engage with the nuances and complexities of the world around us.
Wolff's analysis serves as a potent reminder that the world is not a static entity, but a dynamic and evolving system.
Absolutely.
The global power dynamics, economic structures, and social norms we take for granted are not immutable laws, but rather human constructs that can be challenged and reshaped.
This recognition is both empowering and daunting. It places upon us the responsibility to actively participate in shaping the world we want to live in.
This participation necessitates a critical examination of our own roles and responsibilities within these systems.
It requires us to confront our own biases, assumptions, and complicity in perpetuating unjust systems.
This process of self-reflection can be uncomfortable, but it is an essential prerequisite for meaningful change.
It is through this process of critical self-examination that we can begin to dismantle the structures of oppression and inequality that permeate our world.
Wolff's call for a more democratic economic system is not merely an abstract ideal, but a concrete proposal for redistributing power and creating a more just and equitable society.
It is a vision that challenges the fundamental tenets of capitalism, questioning the concentration of wealth and power in the hands of a select few.
This vision vision resonates deeply with those who seek a more humane and sustainable alternative to the current economic order.
It is a vision that prioritizes human well-being over profit maximization and that recognizes the interconnectedness of social, economic, and environmental systems.
The electric vehicle example we discussed earlier serves as a microcosm of these larger systemic dynamics.
Indeed.
The U.S., in its attempt to protect its own industries, imposed tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. This protectionist measure, however, has potentially unintended consequences.
Chinese companies, through their innovation and investment, have become leaders in electric vehicle technology. These tariffs, while aimed at shielding American companies, might actually impede their progress by hindering their access to cutting-edge technology.
This situation highlights the complexities of navigating a globalized economy and the challenges of reconciling national interests with global cooperation.
It underscores the need for policies that foster innovation, competition, and collaboration, rather than resorting to protectionist measures that can stifle progress and exacerbate tensions.
Wolff's work encourages us to move beyond such narrow, self-serving approaches and to embrace a more holistic and interconnected worldview.
He challenges us to recognize that our fates are intertwined and that we have a collective responsibility to address the challenges facing humanity.
This collective responsibility extends beyond national borders and encompasses all aspects of human life, from the economic to the social to the environmental.
It requires us to act with compassion, empathy, and a deep understanding of our interconnectedness.
This deep dive has provided a glimpse into the intricate web of global power dynamics, economic systems, and individual agency. It has highlighted the challenges and opportunities we face in navigating a rapidly changing world.
Wolff's analysis has equipped us with valuable insights and tools for understanding these complexities and for engaging in meaningful action.
The future is not predetermined. It is a canvas waiting to be painted by our collective choices and actions. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Richard Wolff's insights and their implications for navigating the changing global landscape.
We hope that this conversation has inspired you to continue exploring these issues and to engage in meaningful action to create a better world.